Neil. And next we will hear from Joao Durr, who has been serving as the Chief Executive Officer at CDCB for the past 5 years. Before coming to CDCB, he worked as Executive Director of Interbol. A native of Brazil, Joao received his bachelor's degree in agriculture, followed by a master's and doctorate degrees from McGill University, Montreal in animal science, breeding, and genetics. Joao will be walking us through a panoramic view of a very memorable year.
Thank you. I was feeling disappointed that no applause, only for Neil, you know. Okay, so we received a lot of feedback that in these meetings people are not really interested in all those reports with numbers and everything we did, with everything that was going on and that we told you several times. So since last year, with the help of Look East, and particularly Amy here, so all the information is here. So you can read and read because it's a very good material, and we are glad to provide this to you today, which is a report for the last 12 months. So since the last meeting when we were here, everything is recorded here. So, but in any case, I would like to talk a little bit about some ideas that we have been working with during this year. So the first thing we have to acknowledge is that the only certain thing we have is that things are going to change. And we see this industry has been used to change. I mean, producers are masters of adapting to new conditions. But the problem or the challenge now is that the changes are coming so fast that we really need to be prepared for a different type of change. So I would risk here, and many of you will say, well, this is incomplete or wrong, or I have my own list. But I would say that some of the main drivers here are the shifts in consumer behavior. This is something that affects all of us. And it's pretty simple example, the increase in cheese consumption and the reduction in fluid milk consumption is something that affected directly the industry. We also have been debating a misalignment between supply and demand during this past 3-4 years. Hopefully, the signs that we see are that we are getting into a better place now, but definitely these things foster a lot of changes and make the business models challenged too. And one thing that we have been particularly interested in, and last year we started this discussion here at this forum, is innovation. So innovation is happening in all areas, all chains, all parts of the dairy chain. So in this context, what is CDCB challenged to do? So one thing is improving communication. And then here is not only, I'm not talking about sending news out and letting you know what we're doing, telling you what the new trait will be and how you should interpret the evaluations. Communication here is more two ways. We need to listen. We need to understand what is that the sector really expects from CDCB and the members of CDCB. So we are trying to put an effort to open more channels so that we can get feedback. So Neil already mentioned the producer advisory committee. We also have another industry meeting in February that I'm going to talk a little bit later, in which we had a lot of time dedicated for listening not only talking. So this is something that we need to be aware. Of course, these changes in the industry make us revalidate research and development priorities constantly. So the Holy Grail today might not be the Holy Grail anymore in 2-3 years, and we might be chasing something else. Obviously, new types of data, new types of information is becoming available every day, and the challenge is to make this data flow into the system. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And of course, in general, our challenge is to innovate everything in everything we do, that we have to be humble enough to understand when we need to change. And this is part of being a primary source of genomics for dairy. So I will spend some time on the conclusions of the Reno meeting. You all should have received a document that contains the summary of the conclusions of all the discussions in the meeting. So I'm going to walk you through this quickly, but hopefully you can have some time to read it, because it was a very interesting experience. We had basically we started by saying, well, 10 years of genomics, what have you learned? Where are we now in relationship to where we started? And 10 years of genomics meaning 10 years of genomic evaluations, because genomics goes way back. From that question we went, okay, what is the next disruptive technology that will certainly make our industry change like genomics did? And our bet was, okay, big data seems to be that disruptive technology. It's already here, and we already debated that topic when we were in this room a year ago. And we had an interesting set of speakers also talking about that. And then at the end, we sit around tables, I don't know how many groups, 17 groups, I guess. And we had some questions for these groups. And what came out was very interesting. So the first question was, if the industry does not move to big data analytics in a collaborative manner, what would be the alternative? So we are presenting ourselves. And when we say ourselves, it's not only CDCB, but CDCB and all the members of CDCB that make this cooperation, this system that collects data, stores in a national database, and use this data for the benefit of the food producers. So this model, if this is not the case anymore with big data, what are the alternatives? So the reactions in most groups, it was quite interesting to see that most groups had a very similar approach to the questions. So one of the preoccupations was, if we have a lot of data silos, this is not going to be helpful for the producers. We'll be dealing with proprietary data, which is something that we already have in many situations. And again, these are conclusions from the meeting, not necessarily my own opinion, although I must say that I agree in most of the conclusions. And then with this reality of a lot of silos of data, the challenge of maintaining integrity and quality of this data will be much more difficult to deal with. Some also indicated this could be leading to duplication and inefficiencies in the process. would be harder to set national goals to pursue once you don't have, let's say, the data in one place and someone working on behalf of the community. And also the preoccupation of having data available for universities, USDA research, public research organizations. So the last comment was that we need something more centralized or more associated with the dairy chain as a whole in order to provide leverage for consumers, activists, and supply chain and government. So this is also a preoccupation that people had in the groups. Second question. So if we will do that in a collaborative way, this transition to big data, actually it's not a transition. We could say that we are already there. But let's put bigger data because it's coming a lot more. Would the producers be willing to contribute data to the national database? So we'll be willing to continue contributing data because the national database is already a reality. So one big, strong message was that there is a hope that we can achieve software integration because producers are tired of having to deal with 5, 6 different platforms and in order to make one decision. So this is a challenge and something that would help a lot to standardize definitions, because if you have different definitions in 2 different software at the same farm, you cannot communicate, you cannot integrate that kind of data. And also something that is easy to use. I mean, the farmers don't want to be IT specialists, they want to just use a tool to make their decisions. They would be willing to contribute data if we have a transparent process in which we can say and show what is done with the data. This data has to be treated with confidentiality and has to be safe, secure. Also, one factor that would be considered is that whatever research is done with the data that they contribute should take into consideration the producer's needs in first place. So communication again. Standardization would lead to data quality. Data quality is in all the slides that I'm going to present to you from that meeting. So it's really a preoccupation that if we don't manage to secure the quality of the data, the quality of the information and the quality of the decisions will suffer. No additional costs, or at least that the additional costs are equitable. Oh my God, this is not a word for a Brazilian. Equitably distributed. Okay, so that everybody has to pay a part of the bill. So in a pre-competitive database incorporating more big data, what is the role of CDCB? So we agree so far, it seems that there is an indication that it's important to have a collaborative effort, but is CDCB going to play a role in this process? So to our delight, of course, and honestly, CDCB organizes a meeting and invite people, and then everybody says that CDCB is great. So, of course, I understand that there might be people out there that have a different opinion, okay? But it's important for us to have this affirmation from those that were there. The group indicated that CDCB should be proactive and transparent and play a role. And the main role will be foster data expansion in a pre-competitive manner, facilitate actions, and add value for data providers. So that's something that We all know whoever works with DHI or any other type of data collection, you have to have immediate benefits offered to the farmers. Otherwise, they see no point on providing data. Represent dairy farmers to collaborate with other parties. That could be internationally or could be with existing silos already, but add value to the database by bringing more data in exchange for other things. Enhance data quality, standardization, anonymity. The other thing is, the other message that came out, keep it simple. There are a lot of things out there already that those should be the focus in the beginning, because there is already a lot of data that is not in the system. And ensure that data is shared across the industry so that the industry can provide services to the farmers. Last question, what are the necessary steps to advance the use of big data in dairy genetics and herd management? So the idea is to not let anyone out. I mean, don't basically bring in a lot of actors that today participate in the industry but are not really part of the effort of collecting data and using data. Try to have a buy-in approach. Look at the needs from producer to consumer in this whole range and try to have this kind of open mind. We have to address data ownership and confidentiality. We have to have a transparent, again, business model. We have to make sure that data quality is achieved or guaranteed. Communication, again. And one specific suggestion was, well, we have to go after the large producers and others that are not currently engaged, but they have already data. Leverage international data and expertise. There was both data and expertise. And engage big data partners. For example, they mentioned the big cloud suppliers like Amazon and Apple and all that. So data contribution must yield value back to the dairy. That was a clear message. Direct payment or reduction in cost services would be a way for people to be stimulated to participate with data. They want short-term benefits. Telling a producer, well, you should collect this data because in 10 years we're going to have genetic evaluation is not really appealing. Cow management level, so we need to get something back to the producers that they can use in their day-by-day operation. Timely outcomes, information that we deliver has to be easy to interpret, and basically accurate information will allow better decisions and will allow higher profitability. Here is an opportunities for CDCB to expand the services, also some suggestions. So this is and again, we're not talking CDCB, only the small group that works with CDCB database, but the system that is supporting CDCB, providing benchmark information as compensation for data. In addition to genomic evaluations, provide some financial information or some information that they can use to manage their the finances of their herds. Benchmark comparisons, leverage against anti-dairy groups. Actively address consumer concerns. So basically what they were saying is that this data could provide important elements to be used in to inform consumers about wrong information that is going on. market differentiation. So this data being used to differentiate products, that's another suggestion that came in. And one suggestion also was monetize anonymized data, and monetize in the sense that we could provide this data, access to this data, as far as the data was anonymized, and get, let's say, more resources for the system with that. Again, this is what came out of the groups. So as an overall conclusion, there was a significant alignment around the desire for pre-competitive collaborative databases. And there was an agreement that CDCB, as an objective third party, has a leadership role to play. So that's basically where we are. The board and the staff are considering this input for future planning, that's for sure. So right now, I just want to wrap up by telling you a little bit of what was going on this year, or remind you, many of you, that was a busy, busy year. Ezekiel is not looking for more things to do, you know, but and neither is Paul. But this year we achieved some interesting progress. We increased the number of SNPs that we have in the prediction set, and we also adopted the new reference genome assembly. So these were really important steps of using the best information available in order to improve our predictions. To my knowledge, I think we were probably the only country still using 80,000 SNP. I don't know how many have adopted the new genome assembly already. One big achievement of the year was the inclusion of crossbred animals in genomic evaluations. We're very happy about that because this was a process that took almost 5 years. And it was good that it took 5 years because we have learned a lot in the process. And we see that now we have a product that addresses a part of the population that didn't have access to genomic predictions. We also launched the new trait, early first calving, included clinical mastites in the interbull evaluations. We passed the validation, and now we are part of the evaluations. What does that mean? It means that we get bulls from other countries in our scale through the MACE evaluations and interbull, and that information will be enhancing our reference population and make our predictions more reliable. So we're very happy about that. We also went through, and we're still going through, a review of fertility evaluations. And we learned a lot in the process. We improved a lot, but we still have challenges to address. In terms of policies and procedures, we implemented a new simplified fee structure based on the premise that whoever provides data gets a credit, and that credit is used then to reduce the price of the services. So basically, we are already sending the signal that if you provide data, we will reduce the cost, sometimes no cost at all. We had recently approved by the board a test run process, which is basically we have a full evaluation before we go into before implementing it into production, of significant changes in the process. And the difference is we always had that in place, but the difference now is that we will have members of the committees, the representatives from the industry that will have access to those full evaluations beforehand so that they can spot any inconsistencies and we have time to correct before we go live. Also, a new policy that has been recently adopted is the use of National Cooperative Database for SNP array validation. So basically, when we validate arrays or chips that companies want to put into the market. And the basic idea here is not only to say that this has a cost for CDCB in terms of human resources, but especially this wouldn't be possible without the national database. So this is a use of the national database, and that's why we needed to have a policy to regulate that. And also, we touch SNP information disclosure also in this policy. As Neil already mentioned, the board has elected the first group of producers that are part of the Producer Advisory Committee. These are the names. So we had a very strong list of names that have been indicated by the members of the board, and it was an interesting process to see how we would choose them, and at the end we got to this very exciting group that will help staff and board especially to establish policies from now on. And then, of course, that's what we are here for today, development of new data pipelines, and the first one has everything to do with the next speakers. So we have a project that has been approved by the FFAR, whatever, I never know how to say. And CDCB is the partner on this project, so it's $2 million being invested in collecting data for feed efficiency. So you will hear a lot about this project because the next five speakers are the participants in this project. So the idea is that next year we can launch genomic evaluations for feed efficiency in Holsteins. Unfortunately, we only have Holstein data so far. So, and then also now in the Jersey breed, there was a challenge made to our members to increase the flow of health data from Jersey herds, and they responded really well. And I would like to thank the Jersey Association and the DRPCs, especially for the effort. And we have a dramatic increase in number of records for Jersey. So we are now in process of test run. So soon we will have health traits for Jersey in the system as well. What's next? So I forgot many things here. Now that I look at the slide, I remember at least one. But I would like to say that we had, during this year, a partnership with North Carolina State University. We sponsored the, a visit, technical visit of Stefano Bifani from Italy. And his task was to revisit our calving easy evaluations. The work was very successful. We have already submitted those evaluations to interbull validation. They passed the validation very well. And we will certainly be implementing these changes in the near future for the calving easy evaluations, which it's a difficult trait to work with. And it was about time for us to review the methodology, and I think we made excellent progress on that. There is another topic that has been in and out for a while, SAR conception rate for Angus bulls. So again, Angus, I'm talking too much. Angus bulls in dairy cows, of course. So this is also a project that is advanced. We had an internship from Georgia that Taylor, forgot her family. Yeah, and she helped us to advance on that, and we continue to do that research. We had the paper that I don't know if it came out already, but it's about to. Just submitted by Juan Nani, which is a postdoc with Paul and John Cole. So about discovering ancestors and connecting relatives in large genomic databases. This is certainly something that will enhance the evaluation soon. Then we have here with us the presence of Matthew Schaefer and there's Ross, our fellows from Australia, from DataGene. So CDCB is engaged on a partnership with DataGene and TMA Solutions. This is a project that we started already, and the idea is to redevelop some modules of our software in-house. So we have already 2 phases of this project completed, and we are very happy with the partnership. Basically, DataGene is the Australian equivalent of CDCB, and they went through a total redevelopment in the past 5 years. Is that right, Matthew? And they have developed an expertise of project management, and they work with this group of software development from Vietnam. So the idea is to take advantage of the expertise that they have acquired in this process and try to find the solutions for the CDCB. So basically, the idea is to go in modules, and the first module that we are tackling is the web interfaces that we have, so services that we provide directly to all of you. So this is the last sentence of my article there, but I found it so good that I have to say, if reality presents itself as a constant change, it's most important to stay focused on the ultimate purpose of CDCB and genetic improvement, empowering dairy producers to deliver the greatest source of nutrients available, milk. So we don't lose our focus. You know, I mean, that's where we want to get to this wonderful food that we can provide the world with. I would like to thank my staff, the board, and all the collaborators. This has been a really great year. We learn a lot, and we are very excited to continue doing what we do and improve every day where we started. Thank you very much.